Welcome back to the Nullified Take. We've got all the TNT takes for you on The Amazing Race, episode, I believe, 7 right now,
Yes.
Michelle? Yeah?
7.
Or leg 7?
Yes.
Episode 7 or leg 7? I don't know how to classify it. I know some places are saying episode 6, other people are saying leg 7. It's a bit confusing when you have the two legs right there up front in the first episode, but we're getting through this season fast and furious. There's 5 players or 5 teams left, I should say, within the Amazing Race currently. And with this leg, it was quite an interesting start to it, Michelle, because we saw teams start exactly where they finished, and it looked like they were camping out there in tents.
Yes, it's been a while since they've done that. So that's very interesting when they do something like that because it's sort of roughing it. They don't get a chance to do any of the washing. A lot of them do their washing in the hotels, and they would have. Imagine getting up. I know some of them do wear makeup. It would have been interesting putting their makeup on in the morning.
Yeah, I did notice that a few of them looked pretty rough the next morning when they had to get started on the starting line there for this leg. But one of the things that also stood out for me, and actually before I go on, I think for me, camping out there would be something I wouldn't necessarily be that interested in. Like, I'm not a big camper at all, but if you want to do a lot of these shows, you've got to be able to be comfortable with anything that they're going to throw at you. And I think probably also for the COVID restrictions and things like that, we spoke about it quite a bit last episode when we did our recap. They probably try to keep them as much away from the public as they possibly can, and especially in the French league, it did look like a lot of what they were doing was outside, especially last leg, outside of the main city centers or town hubs. Even this town that they go to in this specific episode looked like one of the smaller rural towns over in France. It wasn't one of the bigger cities that they actually went to.
Yeah, they've done really well at keeping everyone apart. And look, I'm not a camper either. I would find it really hard to get up the next morning and suddenly be watched by millions of people and not look sort of at least half decent. So, I'd have an issue. I'd have to get up so early to try and fix something.
The one thing for me that would just put me in a foul mood from the start, and this is always the thing that I thought of if I ever had to go play something like Survivor, is you see me even right now. I got the long black coffee. It gets me through this podcast. It gets me through my day. I'm absolutely addicted to caffeine. Can you imagine waking up in the morning there and not having a coffee before you get into the race? I think I would want to murder someone if that was the case. I don't know if they did get coffee or not, but that would be probably my first world problem that I would be worried about, waking up after sleeping in a tent in the middle of nowhere.
I know some people who have gone on the race who've tried to stop smoking before it, tried to stop other addictive things like coffee. I once had a friend who was going to China many, many years ago, and she knew where she was going there may not be coffee, which is unusual nowadays. So she stopped having coffee here 3 weeks before she went, and she had massive headaches for 2 weeks just to try and detox herself. So it wouldn't be fun if you hadn't, sort of detoxed yourself from whatever you might not be able to get on the race beforehand.
Yeah, definitely stop that way before. Don't do, and I know it's a different show, don't do what Shane Powers did in Survivor where he quit smoking the day that he went to go play Survivor. Worst thing you could do playing one of these reality shows if you've got an addiction, trying to stop it on the race. And the big thing with this race is, like even if you look at this specific leg, they're outside of a town for most of this leg. It's not as, you only get a limited amount of money that you can spend on trying to get from point A to B. You're not necessarily going to go into the shops and go buy things when you're on the race. You very rarely get that opportunity.
And they've all been given maps this time. So obviously they've not hunted down, or they haven't been able to go and get a map. So they've all been given, it looks like the same map.
Yeah. So the start of this leg was interesting to me, Michelle, because, I've started thinking about it. There's a few legs now where we've had different teams start together. Like, for instance, in this one, we've got Penn and Kim, we've got Raquel and Kayla start together. And then obviously the last 3 teams, they start together, which kind of takes away a little bit from the whole point of trying to rush to get into first, second, third, or fourth place, because timing doesn't really matter so much this season. Everybody is leaving together in these clusters. And one of the things that I'm starting to notice here, Michelle, is when this is happening, it does look like a lot of these groups are sort of forming alliances, working together because they're starting together. And we see this here in the beginning of this leg with Kim and Pen,
Yes.
and also Raquel and Kayla working together throughout this whole leg because they started together. Do you think, and I know this is a problem with the Amazing Race, it has been a problem for recent seasons where big alliances have kind of formed and they've ganged up on other people that they don't want to go far in the game, and it's kind of shut certain teams out of the race and it doesn't give them a fair chance of getting back into it. Do you think that this specific format is here to stay? And if it is here to stay, do you think it is a bit of a problem because of some of the things that we're seeing with teams teaming up like this?
Look, if you're down to the final 5 teams and you're leaving as a group, I'd want to stay with that group, only because if you're doing the detours or the roadblocks at the same time, there's always a way for you to maybe get in front or run at the end. Whereas if you're off like 15 minutes apart, every team, you may not see anybody. You don't know where anybody is. You don't know if you're in front, if you're behind. This way, it seems like a bit of a safety net for them. Let's stay with them. Let's work when we're with them. And then we'll try and deal with trying to beat them later. I think I would personally try to do that. I don't see it as the alliances that dominated last season, because that 5-mine alliance was huge. And really, when you have so many teams working together, the others don't really stand a chance unless they're very clever and very good racers. I don't see that transferring into this season as much, but I can understand what you're getting at.
And I'm starting to wonder if a lot of it is kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation, because we definitely are seeing that Ryan and Dusty is a team that no one wants to see in the final. Everybody is trying to team up together, work against them. I mean, even here, Ryan and Dusty kind of do their own thing in any case, and we'll talk about that later on. But you even see within that second group that 2 other teams do team up together here throughout this league. So you've got these factions forming where everybody's just hoping, like Kim says here in the beginning of this league, that the boys did sort of mess up in the previous league, which gave a lot of people hope because they thought that they were going to just steamroll throughout this whole season. How important is momentum in a show such as The Amazing Race, and being able to consistently perform at a peak, be in the top 3 teams or place first? And do you think that Dusty and Ryan can find their way back to success and back to momentum? Because at the moment, it does look like all of that momentum has shifted. And Kim and Pen, I do think Kim and Pen might have even had more first place finishes than Ryan and Dusty at this point, or it's equal, but it's a pretty equal race between the two. And if you look at momentum, Kim and Pen looks to be the team that's currently got that momentum.
I think the momentum also is influenced by their headspace. If you're feeling good going to sleep the night before because you're in the top 3, you are going to get up in the morning rejuvenated, think, right, let's go get this. Let's maybe come first this leg. Whereas if you're in the bottom few teams, you get up going, oh, am I going home today? Come on, let's try and do this. But you're still in the back of your mind thinking, are we going to get lost? Are we going to be able to do the challenges? I think a lot of it is your mind. And momentum comes from your mind as well, as much as having the good luck of being able to do things well in the race.
Yeah, and it was quite interesting to see Dusty sort of shying away from doing the detour here this round. Again, he just made a mistake in the previous leg, so you've got to wonder how much that is playing into his mind when it comes to the decisions of who's going to do what. I mean, in the roadblock, who's going to do what at the roadblock at the end of the day, and he kind of steps away from that. Obviously, Ryan did extremely well catching up last leg as well, so obviously they want to try and give the best person the chance to do that there. But I want to talk about that a little bit later on, because there may be a little bit more thinking that went into why Ryan was the person selected to actually go and do the roadblock at that point. We've got Sayo here saying that we're spitting facts the whole time while we're on the podcast at the moment. I like to think we're spitting facts as well, Michelle. And Stephen Smith says that watching Kim and Pen's podcast, they basically said to team up with whoever at the time, beat them at the end, which is kind of what they said on the show as well, right? They said, we love them, we'd love to team up with them here, but ultimately we would like to beat them if we do get to the end of the show.
Yeah, exactly. you just do as much as you can to just get forward. And as long as you're not really, beating someone up, or not figuratively, but you're not, totally running over another team and doing the wrong thing by them, I think all's fair in love and war.
Now, I do, want to talk about Raquel and Kayla again. Me and you have both, like, it's been hard. Like, on this podcast, they haven't been the team that we've loved the most. And we've said, hey, listen, if there's a team we'd like to lose, maybe them, maybe we just don't, like, we just can't identify with them as much as some of the, as some of the other teams. But this episode, things changed a bit, didn't it?
Yeah. Yes. I really enjoyed watching them this episode. I don't know whether it was just the convertible car that brought out their personalities, but I was like, oh, okay, I really like you two now.
It's a problem. Like, who are we going to say we would rather see not in the game anymore? I mean, it would be pretty tough because they're fans, but Arun and Natalia has had 3 opportunities now. Maybe if there's a team to go, it would be them, because, I mean, they've had all of the opportunity now and they still just can't seem to bring it together and do really well in these leagues. But I do want to continue to talk about Raquel and Kayla. Obviously, we've got the convertible car here. Such a great scene where they're driving, and we get to hear a little bit about their story. Now, obviously, we knew that they lost their jobs because that was something that they mentioned when they came back to race. But they talk about the fact that, they're in their early 30s and they're living back with their parents and they have to rough it out. And to be honest with you, it kind of made me sort of identify with them a little bit, because I was like, that would suck. Like, I mean, I've been independent since the age of 18. I moved out of the house. I've never lived with my parents since then. And I've traveled the world. I've been very independent my whole life. So, having to, and they come across as very strong-minded women, independent. They do their own thing. They travel the whole world. And here they are, their world's crumbled on them and they have to go live with their parents. What a burden to carry and sort of be back there with your parents and feel probably kind of like, where am I going in life? And, just based on that story alone, them being out there trying to win this money to better their lives and get an opportunity after being crushed by this thing that has crushed all of us, it has made me kind of want to shout for them.
As a job when they were with their parents, because there was there's a supermarket down the road here, and one woman suddenly started working there and she was so polished. She just looked amazing. And she was just the person at Woolworths. She was on the floor. She was like the person who oversaw all the checkouts and made sure everything was running smoothly. And I ended up talking to her one day and said, oh, where have you come from? And she said, oh, I used to be a flight attendant. And, there's no job for us at the moment. There's no flights. And I wanted to keep busy. So I'm here. But seriously, she wasn't in the flight attendant costume, but she just looked amazing. Her hair was always amazing, her makeup. And I'm like, oh, you need to go back to your job.
Well, one of my co-hosts who's got their own channel as well, Chantelle Francis, she used to be a flight attendant and now does podcasting pretty much full time, and obviously she does do some acting as well. But she's gone through that similar sort of I guess trajectory that they've gone through. I don't think she lives with her parents though, but she probably will. I've not listened to who her favorite team is. I will ask her next time I talk to her. I actually will be talking to her over the weekend. I will ask her who's her favorite team, but I'm sure she's shouting for the flight attendants and staying loyal to that and wanting to see them go deep. But another thing that was really cool here with the convertibles when they were driving in them was the fact that they were using GoPro cameras to give us a really great view of them in the car and also the surrounding area. And that sort of made it so that the second person didn't have to sit behind them. I really like this. This is the first time I've seen them play around a little bit with GoPro cameras. Now, obviously, that's difficult to do when you're jumping into taxis. You can't have the GoPros set up beforehand because you can't influence which taxis the racers are going to get, for instance. But it was really cool to see them innovate and do something a little bit different this leg. And it definitely stood out for me when you looked at the cinematography of it.
They definitely haven't. They always have the cameraman in the car with them. The only time that hasn't happened, I think, is when they're in a tuk-tuk in Thailand or an Asian country, and then they're in a tuk-tuk beside them. So it was really nice to see them, by themselves.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And it's an hour and a half drive that they have to take all the way from where
Is it?
this started to where they go to that first lighthouse. So
Wow.
a long, long drive. And, I can understand why they wanted to stick together just in case somebody went in a
Mm,
different direction and did the wrong thing. But the superpower, and there was a few superpowers for Penn that came out, and Penn and Kim, I just grow to like them more and more every single leg. I'm getting behind
mm,
them more and more. In the beginning, I was a little bit, too much, too over the top. But I think that as the race has gone over and over, that they're still high energy, but they've actually toned it down a little bit because obviously the
mm.
race is really wearing on them, and they're
Yeah,
getting
they're
comfortable about
exhausted.
how much they need to be giving the camera at all times, which I'm really enjoying because I feel like we're seeing the authentic Penn and Kim at this point. But Penn speaks French, so I mean, if you could choose
Mm,
anybody this leg that you could team up with, Penn and Kim, they would have been the team to do it. So good on Raquel and Kayla for doing that. But we do see a little bit of the deviousness again in them here because they don't stop Kim and Penn or try and flash them to say, hey, turn
yes,
down this way. They go down to the first checkpoint before Kim and Penn, and Kim and
yes,
Penn does feel a certain kind of way for a small while this leg. They feel a little bit, I guess, shaded by them here in this leg again.
but that's okay.
Yeah,
It's fair.
it's all fair in love and war,
All
right?
fair.
I mean,
Yeah.
Raquel and Kayla, like I was thinking about it while I was watching the episode. If they were a guys' team, would people look at them and say, oh, they're playing a shady game or anything like that? No, they would just say they're super
No.
competitive. So
Mm,
fair enough for Raquel and Kayla to do this. I think that if they get to the final, this is the mindset they're going to have to win it because it could be literally someone missing a checkpoint somewhere and then picking it up could be the difference between
yeah,
them winning and not winning.
exactly. Exactly.
What
Can we talk
what did you
about
think of the
cheese?
checkpoint?
No, I
Yeah,
wanna
what did you
I wanna
think?
talk about cheese.
Okay.
Seriously. How much of a problem would you have had eating that cheese?
I'm from Africa. You do know this, right?
Yes.
I mean, we eat some like interesting delicacies in Africa. So I think I would have been okay. Like I don't think maggots specifically would have stopped me from doing it. I wouldn't eat maggots on a daily basis. This wouldn't be
I
like
don't
my
think
my
anyone
protein
does.
source of choice. But if I had to, I would be able to find a way to eat it. I don't think it would have, I don't think it would have been the roadblock that would have stopped me. Now, if there was snakes there, anything with snakes, I'm
Oh,
out.
really?
That's my weakness. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm fine with snakes. I once
Please,
had a
producers, if you ever cast me, don't listen to this podcast. I don't want anything to do with snakes.
Really?
Spiders, okay. I hate snakes. Absolutely hate it.
There was a competition in Sydney to win a certain amount of money, and you didn't know what was going to happen to you until the night before. So I was selected, and the night before they said, okay, you're going to be lying on a bed and you're going to have two pythons on you, just
Yeah.
slithering all over you. And I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. That's fine. And in the morning, I had to have so many tests. I had to have a blood pressure test. I had to have a stress test, just to make sure that I could actually go through with it. I was totally fine. I just made sure my shorts and my top were knotted really tight so they couldn't go up anywhere. And it was fine. But this, oh, hell no, Stephen Smith says, look, it was for money. I'll do a lot of different things for money, and I've won a lot of
That's one
competitions.
thing I can't do. Like, honestly, $1 million at stake. You tell me to climb into a pit of snakes, I'm out. I don't care.
Really?
$1 million. Don't care. No,
I'll get in a
I've got
pit
a
of snakes.
massive fear of it.
Oh, yeah.
Completely off topic, I know, but
No,
like
you
that's
know
the
what
thing
I
I would have
won't do?
struggled with.
A pit of cockroaches. I would have a really serious problem with a pit of cockroaches, but snakes would be fine. Fine. Anyway,
Cockroaches, like that's just crazy to me. It's like poisonous snakes, cockroaches, like
oh,
snakes
no,
can bite you. I don't know, like even if they're not
cockroaches can
poisonous.
bite. Well, cockroaches in Australia can bite, but anyway.
Yeah.
Regardless, the I think the cheese, I would have kept my mouth. No, I would have just tried to chew really quickly. I mean, they were all saying it was really dry. But just close my eyes. I think I would have had a problem with, someone said it tasted like vomit. So maybe it was more like on the side of blue cheese, which is the only cheese in the world I don't like.
Mm.
So I could have had a problem there. I could have been
The
like
cheese
Lulu
was
and
probably
Lala.
worse than the cockroach, to be honest, or the maggots. I think the cheese was that cheese did not look appetizing to me at all. Like,
It looked nice when it was closed.
yeah, until you opened it up, and the funniest faces came from Raquel and Kayla trying to eat this. Like they both were having the worst time out there trying to eat this. And another really funny moment, because I did enjoy it as a TV moment, I thought it was brilliantly done, was when Kim asked the person, the handler there, can you show me if they're whole? And they were moving, and she was talking about the fact that they're moving as Penn is trying to put this down, and it nearly made him vomit it back up when she's talking about the fact that they're alive. So much comedic gold that came from this specific checkpoint. I really enjoyed it. May have been one of the highlights for me for this episode.
Yeah, that definitely was a highlight. That was good. Just watching people try to eat stuff is fun. There was a woman on the fan page who was saying, "Oh, it's disgusting. Why do they get them to do it? You know, they shouldn't be vomiting." And I wrote, "Vomiting is entertaining."
Yeah, well, we've been talking about it for nearly 10 minutes about the cheese challenge. Yeah. I think it was one of the highlights of the episode for me personally. Yeah. But what was interesting was throughout this leg, we saw that the three teams at the back, they were pretty much sticking together, even going into this challenge. I thought that Ryan and Dusty, they were going to pull away at some point, but even when they left, they had both the other teams right on their heels, basically following them through to where the detour is going to be. And we find out that there's going to be two very interesting detours here. And I'm quite interested to know, which one would you have gone for? Would you have gone for row your boat, or gently down the stream? Which one do you think would have been right up your wheelhouse?
I would have done row your boat.
Yeah, same.
Hands down.
Yeah, same. And I was surprised that so many people went for gently down the stream. And I think that Kim alluded to maybe why they did that at the end of the race when they got to the pit stop, because Phil gave them the reward for coming in first, saying that they were going to go to the location they were going to go to. And I remember writing down that she said, because they were going to do kayaking, she said, it'll have to wait because of the kayaking we did in the previous leg. So I think that some people may have gotten a bit of a scare of doing the kayaking because it may have been physically more demanding than what we appreciate. And that's one of the reasons why so many of them decided not to do it, because I was shocked that Ryan and Dusty seemed to be in it. It is the one that they should have done because they're physically fit, but they were the only ones going for it.
Why were they sinking? Like, I know someone said that one of them was actually rowing the water into the boat. I didn't see it personally, but I was thinking, if Akbar and Cherie did it, can you imagine? It would have just sunk totally. I mean, are they not sturdy enough for big humans?
I think what happened was, as they were out there, and every time that Ryan or Dusty were to go down and grab one of the fish on the chain and they had to pull it up, you had, I think, them leaning over too far where it actually started catching water when they were trying to do it. And also Dusty was saying as he was rowing, he didn't realize he was scooping water into it as he was rowing. So they were just working against themselves. I don't know what's going on with the boys these last two legs. They're their own worst enemy.
And what was the noise when they capsized? When they were capsizing, they kept, I don't know, they kept splicing some of the scenes together, the edit. But they were both going, like trying to lift the boat. Or they just seem to be making so many noises. And I'm thinking, are they really having trouble? Are they going to drown in a minute? Like it's a boat going down on top of them?
I think it was for dramatic effect. They just wanted to get some dramatic effect there for people to think exactly what you thought. Maybe they're not going to make it back up. Maybe they're going to drown. But I do have to give credit to Ryan and Dusty, because I do think that the edit made it look like they were a lot more panicked than what they probably were. I think there would have been a lot of other teams, if they were out there in the same situation, that you probably would have had production going out there to help them get the boat back up right. But they actually ended up being able to do that themselves, which I don't think is an easy thing to do. And they did end up finishing it before the other group that got there with them. But before we talk too much about that group, Stephen Smith brings up a really good point here that we definitely should discuss. Penn has a photographic memory, or pretty close to a photographic memory.
Amazing.
A very good performance by Penn and Kim again here, and I feel like Raquel and Kayla really piggybacked off them, and they made the right choice to stay with Kim and Penn this episode. I mean, definitely. I don't think they would have gotten through that as quickly if Penn wasn't there.
See, I'm okay. I would have done well if it was in a two-team alliance of doing gently down the stream, because you can just do 3 each or 2 each, and it's easy to remember that way. I don't know how many I had to do now. I can't remember whether it was 10 or it was 10.
10 years.
So, but if it was just myself and my partner and we did 5 each, I know we probably could have messed up a bit. So I'd just be scared of that, you know. I think I've worried ever since I first saw someone. Oh God, Penn's also colorblind. Really, Stephen? How the hell? How the hell?
Well, that's why when they were memorizing it, I thought they had a really good strategy. The way that they did it, they were describing it like that's the French flag, or that's a purple fish with black spots on it. They were really describing what the fish looked like, and it wasn't just it's a purple fish, for instance. So I thought that their attention to detail, both teams, was really good in that league. But I think the scary thing for me, Michelle, was the fact that they had to wait 15 minutes on the boat is how long it's going to take to be out there. And if they get it wrong, if the boat's not there and the boat just so happened to have gone out, they have to wait 15 minutes for it to come back before they can go out again. So before you know it, you could be spending 30, 45 minutes, an hour doing this thing, where if you get onto the boat and if you're just good at rowing and you can pull those chains up with a fish, I feel like that should probably only take 15 or 20 minutes max. So you kind of, damn if you do or damn if you don't. But 10
was that on the
clue?
Memorize. Did they know that it was going to be a 15-minute wait on the clue?
Yes, because Ryan and Dusty spoke about it.
The other one.
Yeah, Ryan and Dusty spoke about it when they ran down to go do row your boat. They said it's a 15-minute trip on the boat and that they would have to wait. So I think that in light of all of those circumstances and with the knowledge that they had, I think that they did the right thing to do the challenge, or the side of the challenge that they did. But at one point, it nearly looked like they would, like the editing was so good with the team coming back with, the father-daughter, the twins coming back. It looked like they may just get ahead of the guys, even at the end when they came back to do that second one. The editing was really good, even though I do think that Ryan and Dusty ended up pulling away from them, choosing that one. And I think that how well Penn and Kim did on that specific detour, you really have to look at how badly the other team did to really appreciate how well they did. Because it may look like it's really easy, but you're under a boat, you're looking in murky water. I don't think it's as easy, and it's both sides of the boat as well. So if you're one team, it's tough to navigate.
Look, Amazing Race has done a lot of amazing, wonderful things for my life, but one thing it has done in detriment is make me stressed about any memory challenge I ever have to do, because I've seen people have so many issues with memory challenges that it's made me feel less confident in being able to do any memory challenge. So I think if there's ever a memory challenge, I would choose the other one if given the choice.
Well, I tell you what, and firstly, I just want to acknowledge Dolores, who is an OG listener to this channel. She says that Penn is also colorblind, and he said it helped with the other team, with the colors, and his wife, Kim, too. Dolores, welcome to the live stream. I have asked this question to our live listeners today to say, what would you have done? And at this point, and we'll keep the voting up until the end for people to put a vote on, 50-50 on who would have gone for row your boat and who would have gone gently down the stream. So it's quite interesting that if me and you were in a team, we would have gone row your boat. But it does seem like, different people, different strengths. I'm the same as you. Anything memory-wise, I'm okay at puzzles, but if I can choose a physical thing and my partner's up to it, I always feel like the physical ones, if you can just beast through it, do what you need to do, you can actually make up a lot of time when it comes to the Amazing Race. Yeah,
definitely. I wanted to say one more thing. While they were there was a plane, and when they were the first two teams were first arriving, that there was a quick shot of this interesting, it looked like an aquaplane sort of thing, and then it came up later, and I just had a little chuckle because I was imagining production there, getting ready for everyone to come, and then someone would have seen this unusual plane and said, "Get a shot of the plane. We can edit that in. Get the plane." And I can imagine like the cameraman's just swinging around trying to get the plane. And I think of all these stupid things that they probably want to try and catch, just like in, Survivor, when they see a damn lizard. Oh, quick, get a shot of the lizard because we can montage that into the beginning of the next scene. And
I'm just so amazed. I'm just so amazed, Michelle, that they don't package and sell it like behind the scenes or something like that. Because, if you look at Survivor 41, getting a little bit of the behind the scenes with a camera crew and how they're getting and setting up and getting ready for the season to start and all of these great moments that leaves the cutting floor that we don't get to see. I'm sure there's fans out there that would love to see a little bit like, for instance, after the leg, like what happened at the tents? Were the teams together? Because in the old seasons, you sometimes used to see them socialize and talk in between legs. Yeah, and we don't get to see that now, and I feel like we are missing out because it is all just focused on the leg, on the specific detail or their interactions within the leg. But I feel like some of the gold happens in between because there's some context that we sometimes miss. Like for instance, the previous couple of episodes, Raquel and Kayla has been taking some stabs at Ryan and Dusty. It would be good to see what rubbed them the wrong way in between legs because I'm sure there's things that we don't know. For instance, I'm sure Ryan and Dusty's not bad. I'm sure Raquel and Kayla, it may have just been a personality clash or they may be feeling like the boys boasted, which guys are kind of guilty of sometimes, especially if they're alpha, let's be honest, So there's some things that happen, some drama that we didn't get to see that I would love to see. So you bring up a good point with all of these different angles and footage that they potentially have. I'd love to see a little bit more of behind the scenes.
I'd like to too. The problem with that is that there are so many cameramen working on the race anyway, and they move so quickly. They move as a unit. They have some people going off beforehand, but they move as a unit that it would be really hard just to have someone just doing behind the scenes. But yes, I mean, I'd love just a production standpoint, not even just to see the teams, but I'd love to have, a 2-hour special of, how they set up challenges, how they have Bertram and the team and Elise and Phil, they have a board. Well, they did in the past. I'm not sure if they do now. They had a board and they have everything mapped out on the board of where they're going and what the challenges are and what they need. And they do all this before they even, try and work out if they're having another season and all of that. And it'd be good to see all the nitty gritty stuff just once.
I agree.
And the fans are always asking for behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason podcasts do so well, the behind the scenes interviews, like what happened. For instance, Stephen Smith here in the chat is saying that Kevin Penner said it was the first time that they really got to meet Lulu and Lala at the campsite, which is quite interesting because they've been racing with them for so long. They went on a big break, but obviously they probably were required or prevented from speaking to certain people that they were going to race with. They probably try to police that as much as they could.
And they can't when they're camping.
They can't when they're camping. So it would have been interesting to see some of those dynamics. And I do feel like we're poorer for not seeing it, but I can understand from a logistical standpoint that you only have X amount of camera people there and they have to be always ahead of the team setting up the next leg where the next challenge is going to be, probably set some cameras in place. But how difficult is it to put a couple of GoPros around the tents and stuff? I mean, they did it for the car. They might as well do it around the campsite. I mean, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I mean, GoPros cost what? 500, 600 Australian dollars or something like that. Now it's not that unreasonable to buy a couple and put them around the campsite.
Yeah, there you go. I'll tell you something.
I don't feel like I'm asking too much.
When the the last season, when they did their race around Australia and they were COVID isolating before they started, so they were up in a hotel in Cairns and they had to keep them away from each other. So they were only allowed to use the gym in certain spurts. Otherwise, they had to stay in their room. So they could go down between 12 and 1, one team, 1 and 2, the other team. And sometimes they'd meet up in a hallway or they'd see each other in a hallway and they'd go, oh, that's a team, or that's a team. But they weren't allowed to actually converse before the race started. So I think it's, that was pretty hard for production to do that for 2 weeks before the race even started in Australia. And they were in the same hotel together.
Yeah, definitely tough to police. Well, on this specific leg, we do get the roadblock coming up, and the roadblock is tying the knot. Now, Michelle, I'm not an expert at tying the knot. You are. Would you have chosen this specific roadblock, or how do you think you would have gone on this one? I think I would have struggled.
I think the boys would have thought it's more like a Boy Scout sort of thing, tying knots, more than sewing. I could definitely do that because I'm not bad at untying knots. And even though it's not about knots, I'm not bad at sewing fast. So I would have been happy to do it.
Yeah, I think I would have been a little bit lost, probably like Ryan was in the beginning. But I think one of the reasons Ryan probably ended up doing this is because I feel like when you're in a prison, you get taught a lot of these practical hand skills. There's programs in place for people to learn how to sew, keep themselves busy. So maybe it's maybe something that will be explained later on when Ryan and Dusty do their own podcast or go on for interviews. But I feel like I said Dusty maybe didn't have the confidence because he made a bad call in the previous leg, but it could also be the fact that there was a little bit of a discussion between them, and Ryan may have had a bit of a hidden skill there, something that he got taught that may have come in handy because he didn't do too bad here. I think he only struggled on the first one, but then realized that there was a fourth knot that he had to tie, which he didn't do before he was out of there. So a pretty good performance, I thought, from him. And it was quite interesting to see as he was running out. He wasn't really helping Arun and Natalia, but he was trying to give advice to the twins as they were running up to the roadblock as well.
I was actually quite impressed with Penn, who worked out that if you stretch the net, then it's easier to sew. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so impressed with you. Wondering if the activation of the nerd glasses actually helped him think of that. I just can't believe
such a great moment.
That.
Did the nerd glasses make him look more attractive, Michelle? Like, I don't, you're the only one here that would probably be able to tell me. I don't normally look at men that way, but do you think it made him look more attractive? Because he reckons it puts him at an equal footing with the boys when they take their shirts off.
No. Not at all. Not in the same stratosphere.
But it gave him superpowers. It's the reverse of Superman. Clark Kent has to remove his glasses to be able to become a superhero. In his case, he needs to put the sun or the glasses on to get his superhero powers on the leg. I feel like every time he puts his glasses on now, we're going to have to watch out. It's going to be Super Pen to the rescue.
Yes, I know. Super Pen. I know he needs his own little outfit now. That's so funny. It was so funny. I wrote it down.
Yeah. No, it's absolute. That was confessional gold when he sort of had a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek moment and went after the boys with the glasses. I thought it was really, it's one of the things what I've said, like Kim and Penn has really grown on me because they I don't know if it's just because I've gotten used to their sense of humor and how they are. Maybe it's a little bit of both, but I am enjoying them the more and more as the show goes on. And I do think that they're the most balanced team out there at the moment. I actually think even though a lot of people are looking at Ryan and Dusty, I think that they're so much more dangerous than Ryan and Dusty at this point, and no one's looking at them.
But I was just thinking, just when you said that, they have hit their stride and they're more consistent. And then you've said balance, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm thinking the same thing because they're just being consistently measured. They're not doing anything totally wrong. They're not excelling, but they're constant.
Now, Michelle, there is a rule in place, right, when it comes to the Amazing Race that you have to be pretty 50-50 on who does the roadblock and when do they do it. To me, it does feel like at this point, Penn has done more of the roadblocks compared to Kim. I know Kim did the bungee jump, Penn did the run on the mountain, Penn did this one as well. I'm not too sure what exactly the tally is there. Is that something to be concerned of, like when Kim has to step up and start doing a little bit more of these challenges? Would we see potentially a bit of a change in momentum? Because I do feel like potentially, and someone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Penn has done more roadblocks than Kim.
Yeah, I think Kim's going to have to step up and do a few whether she likes it or not. And that has happened in other seasons where suddenly, especially in the male-female teams, the male has done quite a few. And the last few, the female has to do. And, if they're physical ones, it can be tricky.
Oh, okay. So Stephen says quite interesting here that they did hint that it might become an issue down the track, which is not something I've picked up at all, Stephen. So quite interesting that you bring that up because I just kind of noticed that it looked like Penn has been doing most of them. And then when it comes to the boys, I think that Ryan and Dusty it's pretty equal, even though Ryan has done more so of the recent ones. I think it's pretty equal on those ones. The twins, I've got no idea. Half of the time, I don't know if it's Lulu or Lala doing it.
No, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure Lala was the one who did it this week, going in there. And again, it just seems like every single time Lulu and Lala has someone in their life that they know that have done something like this before where they can take inspiration from it. And I believe in this case, it was their dad who used to work down, I believe, on the Fisher docks or something. It was a bit of a fisherman. and they just didn't want to disappoint them and do well with the challenge at hand. And I thought they did a pretty good job here, even though they kind of made a mistake on the way, stopping to ask for directions, and Arin and Natalia actually overtook them getting there. They do blitz past them here, and it sets up a couple of really interesting races. Now, obviously, we haven't spoken too much about Raquel and Kayla. Kayla ended up doing that just after Kim and Penn, but both Kim and Penn and Raquel and Kayla, and then also the last two teams. I mean, Ryan and Dusty were the only ones. There was no doubt where they were going to place, but there were two what we thought may have been foot races, and the editing was quite funny, having a look at them playing the same scenes over and over, who's going to get there first. But whenever you had the big overhead shots, you couldn't see the opposing teams in the backdrop. So I do think that it was a lot more distance between them than we probably even realize.
Yeah, you never know. They always edit them together at the end, even if they're like, oh God, an hour and a half apart, they'll edit them together. I mean, as long as the sun's not setting, then, they can make it seem like a nail-biting finish. So
yeah, and again, it's running up a mountain, running up stairs. Like every single time now, they're going to be running up some massive elevation, and it's brutal. I feel like this season, have we ever had that many pit stops in with this elevation? Like, what are we watching? Is this endurance?
Running to the cheese was intense. I know they saw it in the distance. I'm like, Jesus, they're going to have to run up a mountain again.
I feel like the producers sat there and they thought, okay, a lot of people are going to say this is an easier season. They're going to give the teams a hard time because we went on a break and we had to modify the race. They're not going to go to countries where the language, I guess France, the first language isn't English, and they won't necessarily want to talk to you in English. But, they still are sort of European countries and Western countries in general that we've been in so far. So they thought, how can we make it difficult? Let's just go look for the most crazy peaks and hills and things for them to run up to make this a really physically demanding challenge or amazing race season for them, opposed to what we would normally do, just so that the viewers can still look at these teams and say, hey, they still had a tough time out there having to compete this season.
There's a lot of landscapes at the end
Beautiful.
of this season. I mean, there's a lot of trees, there's a lot of climbing, there's a lot of mountains, whereas before we'd be in the middle of cities, we'd be in rush hour, we'd be with lots of different people, and we just don't have that this time. And the funny thing is that there's a team of people who try and catch them all the way around the world when they do this, and they had a very hard time trying to find them during this, because they were so off the beaten track, and a lot of people didn't report in to say, oh, they'd seen a racer here or a racer there, and it was really hard to find them until they get to the next country, which is I don't know, I think they used a bit more of a populated area. So they were found in the next country, which was good, because we couldn't find them. We didn't know where they were.
Yeah. Stephen Smith here says that the self-drives are a lot harder than taxis, and I think it can be for some teams, but the good thing, Stephen, is that if you're good at driving and navigating, obviously Arun and Natalia, they've had a horror time trying to get from point A to B, but if you're good at doing that, at least the race is within your control. Taxis I always find, like we've seen some really good teams in the past get eliminated. We thought they were going to win the whole season because of a bad taxi in one leg, So for me, if I was ever to do this show, I don't know about you, Michelle, I would much rather have a season where I get to drive myself around the whole time, opposed to having to put my faith into a taxi. Like, I know you miss kind of a little bit of the Amazing Race experience and what that feels like. But personally, I wouldn't be opposed to having a season where I had to drive myself. And plus, driving stick, no issue over here. In South Africa, you have to pay a premium to get an automatic vehicle. You only get stick over there. So I grew up with that. It's kind of weird when I moved to New Zealand, where now you pay more to get manual or stick than what you would for an automatic. It's the exact opposite of what it's like in South Africa.
Look, I haven't driven manual for a long time, and there would be issues, I can tell you now. But yes, it's a toss-up, considering I don't drive manual, and I'm not bad at navigating. It would be a toss-up between, if you had a choice between a taxi who could possibly not know anything, or driving a manual where, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to get off the start line, it would be a toss up for me.
Yeah. Now, Jimmy here in the live says that Kim and Penn are equal with Dusty and Ryan with 3 first place finishes for both of those teams. So I've seen a lot of people in the Amazing Race fan page on Facebook, and I don't lurk around too often on social media. I don't have time. Like, I take my hat off to people like yourself, Michelle, that, have the time to be on there and keep everybody in line and make sure that they behave while still having a full-time job.
I don't have time. However, if you look at, how your phone sometimes gives you activity logs of how much you've been on social media in the week, and it lists them, and I'm like, okay, I'm a bad person. I cannot ever show my children this because it's hours and hours just in one day, because I'm always on. I pick up the phone to walk to the car and I'm on Facebook and I'm checking things. So look, it's pretty shocking.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I wouldn't know how it would feel to be in that situation. I can only imagine that when you look for a holiday destination, number one on the list is there a reception?
Wi-Fi!
Is there an internet connection? Is there Wi-Fi available? And like I said, I mean, I'm more than happy. Like, I'll jump online, I'll consume a little bit. I did consume this week a little bit, and I noticed that there is this faction of people in there. I don't listen to the fan reception all that often because I feel like it's a bit better when we come in these podcasts because we have original opinions and our own ideas, opposed to just saying what's already out there on Reddit or Facebook or all those kind of things. But I've noticed that there is a bit of an opposing faction on Dusty and Ryan, with some people saying they hope Dusty and Ryan does not make it to the final 3. To me, Michelle, if Dusty and Ryan does not make it to the final 3, this end leg is going to be extremely boring because Kim and Penn is definitely going to win it. I want to see both Kim and Penn and Ryan and Dusty in that final leg to make it as competitive as possible. The question I have for you, Michelle, firstly, do you agree? And then secondly, who else do you think will make the final 3 the most competitive if they were to get there at this stage? I think it might be an easy one, but who's your ideal final 3? We've had quite a bit of the season now, and I think that we kind of know the 3 teams are that probably has the best chance of winning it at this point.
Well, the top 3 from today are the most look, they bring it. Not that they're not that the others aren't the most competitive. I cannot say that Lulu and Lala and Arun and Talia aren't competitive. However, they're not as consistent. And I think this happens every season. So Ryan and Dusty have done well, and they did very well at the beginning as opposed to Kim and Penn. And when a team does well, especially 2 males, the fan base goes against that. They hate that a team is winning all the time. And then for some reason, they don't want them to get to the end. I have no idea what goes through these people's brains. But
it's been pretty balanced this season. It's 3-3. It's been pretty balanced this
now
season.
It is.
3-3.
Now it is. But this feeling was coming up before, and it always happens with a team who's doing really well, consistently winning. They don't want someone to keep winning. It happened with the green team in season 27 with Justin and Diana. They consistently won every leg. They won a lot of legs. They won, I think they were taking out a record or about to take out a record, and no one wanted them to win.
I remember that season. Yeah.
And it was really sad because they were such a good team and they were so good. And this is what happens with strong teams who win a lot. Fans don't want them to win the whole race. And I don't understand. I find it really sad. But the top 3 teams I think are Kim and Penn, Raquel and Kayla, and Ryan and Dusty. And they would provide the best final 3, as in competitiveness at getting to the finish line and providing the most sort of excitement, fireworks. They wouldn't be far apart, I don't think.
I want it to be competitive in the finale. I don't want to know who's going to win going into it. Listen, if this happens, clip it, at me on Twitter, whatever. I'm always happy to put very bold statements out there. Every now and again, they say a broken clock is right twice a day. So who knows? I might be right twice a day and actually
Correct.
get one of these right. Okay, I'm talking about not the digital ones, but the ones with the
Yeah,
arms.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah,
they were
yeah.
like standing, I know for Gen Zs listening to this, you might not know what I'm talking about because everything is digital these days. But if I I'll put it out there. I think that Kim and Penn, if they're the only one going into this final three with Lulu and Lala and with Raquel and Kayla, they steamroll this. And I don't want to see, and it's similar to probably what the fans don't want to see. I don't want to see a steamroll. I want there to be who's going to win. Is it going to be Ryan and Dusty? Is it going to be Kim and Penn? Raquel and Kayla could still come from behind and win this thing. And I wouldn't be angry at that, especially after this last episode where we got to know them a little bit better. But I do not see the way, and I know they talk a lot about, we want to win. We just need to win the final leg. We're getting better. We've been second a few times. I just don't see them winning it. I just don't think that, and I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, at me. But that's kind of how I see it. I want it to be competitive in the final leg.
And this parallels with Survivor as well. No one likes a final three or a final two where one person is a GOAT. They want to see fireworks at the final tribal. They want to see, people fighting for the win and having a good resume to get that win. And, having a GOAT in Survivor doesn't provide that. And having a team of racers who aren't that good doesn't provide that in a finale either.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Stephen here in the live has asked, have you seen the Ryan Ferguson documentary on Netflix, All 15-17 to Paris on Stan?
No,
now,
but
I don't know
want
about you, Michelle. I've seen the documentary on Netflix. I haven't seen the 15-17 to Paris. I know that's the other two boys that were in the season. Anthony and Spencer, that's what their situation when they were on the train and they stopped the terrorist attack. I still need to watch that. And I know that they actually, Michelle, play the roles. They're actually casted as the actors on the role, and they play themselves in the movie that is produced by, I believe, who's the guy who said, "Are you feeling lucky, punk?" Or the old school Western Clint Eastwood. It's Clint Eastwood is the producer. So crazy. Want to see that. But the reason that I'm Team Ryan and Team Dusty still, and I haven't soured on them yet, is because of Ryan's background, knowing where he came from, what he had to go through for 10 years, how crazy that story is. Having listened to some of his podcasts, which Life After 10 is the podcast name, go listen to it. It's so interesting hearing about prison life and things people went through and things like that. I just think he's a great guy from what I can see. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but because of his situation, I am still rooting for them. And I could never go, I don't like Ryan and Dusty because they're doing well this season. I just think that they're such a likable team, and what he went through is horrendous.
So horrendous. So horrendous.
There we go. Stephen Smith saying, yep, Clint Eastwood. So I definitely will watch that at some point. Now, I believe we've pretty much touched on everything. The one thing I did want to say before I forgot, and I just had a look at my notes for maybe like the second time today. I'm getting better at not looking actually at my notes. But, when they went to this pit stop here at the end, I saw these houses in the backdrop that were like on the cliff's edge, and living in a country where there's so many earthquakes, having lived in Christchurch when we had earthquakes, and all the houses on the edge went over the hill. I just thought to myself, looks beautiful. Those houses probably cost a fortune, but I wouldn't want to live in one of those houses. But what a beautiful setting. It may have been one of the more beautiful pit stops we've actually seen on The Amazing Race. I was really impressed by whoever in production, shout out to them, the person who's choosing these locations. It might be quite brutal to get to, but there has been some stunning locations on this season, in my opinion.
Beautiful. And I didn't know that there were white cliffs anywhere else except England. Those white cliffs that were limestone cliffs that were there, they were amazing as well.
Yeah, very, very beautiful. It's such a stunning, and it's obviously because they get to go to maybe more rural, off the normal beaten track of where tourists go this season, and they get to see that. Lovable Nikki, also an original person who's followed our channel, one of our big challenge fans as well here on the channel. Welcome to the live stream. Says that Anthony and Spencer had cameos. I don't think they played themselves. That's good to know. I know that they were in there. I thought they played themselves, but I haven't watched the movie, so I could be completely wrong. Just the fact that they got to play in a movie about what happened in their lives is pretty crazy to me.
Definitely.
All right, Michelle, I think that is pretty much it for this episode, unless there's something you feel like we didn't touch upon, something you wanted to bring up.
There was a request from Philippe If we could speak any French.
Ah, ça va.
Ça va. Okay. Very good.
Everybody that watched this episode, merci beaucoup. We really appreciate it. That's about as much French as I know. But we will catch you next week where we'll be talking about the next episode of The Amazing Race here on the Nullified Take. And also, if you're an Australian Survivor fan, look out for the Australian Survivor Week 2 recap that is going to take place tomorrow at 2 p.m. if you're in Australia, Australian Eastern Standard Time, or 10 p.m. if you're in American Eastern Standard Time. It should be a lot of fun. I'll have Jake back for that episode, and I will catch you guys then. Michelle, great talking to you. Everybody in the live, thanks so much.
Bye.